most of what I generally talk about are really radical reframes, reapproaches to things that everyone takes for granted. Virtually everything that you were taught when you were young, you have accepted without challenge, because it was always known to be that way. Everybody knows. The problem is there are an awful lot of aspects of our society that are completely broken, fundamentally need to be replaced by something more accurate, because the models under which we're all operating are both obsolete and insane. I'm going to run through a few of these. Some of them you're probably familiar with from some of my stuff. Have you seen any of my stuff? A lot of it will probably be a little bit radical. In fact, all of it will be kind of radical. Men in our society are raised from childhood to understand a couple of things that are very different from things that women are raised to understand. Men are raised to understand from a very early age that they are responsible for themselves, that there will be no safety net, that their world works in this way. They must do as they are expected to do. They must do well in school, they must go to college, they must get a good job working for someone else for a fair wage, they must impress their boss on a pretty much full-time basis, and this will give them enough economic support to provide them with the opportunity to do those things that they choose to do. In essence, while there are a lot of things men might choose to do, those all fall in the realm of freedom. The things men don't choose to do, but feel they have no option but to do, fall into the realm of security. Men understand, overwhelmingly, that security and freedom are incompatible. Do people agree with this? Think freedom, security, they're different tracks. Overwhelmingly, women are raised and understand culturally that there is no choice. For women, security is an absolute requirement. Men crave approval the way women crave security. For men, approval is the equivalent of security, because if a man does not have approval, he is an outcast. He feels he has to make it on his own, and there are very few who, like Zan, can be socially rejected and yet become stronger for it. Most men would do anything to avoid being called creepy or a loser or a weirdo. These are profound insults. To be told you are not approval worthy, you are unwelcome. For some men, men with high self-esteem, men who have a strong self-image, or men who have realized at an early age that they basically have no choice but to leave the safety of the community because they're not going to be able to get along with other people if they're expected to feel and be subjugated. Some men have no choice but to face reality. They will not do as they're told. They have to do things their own way, and so they're constantly going to be outcast. There are also people who desperately want not to be outcast, despite the fact that they're constantly mistreated by society at large. And these people stay anyway. For women, it's a very different world. For women, security is the overrider. It's not a choice between freedom and security. For a man, if he chooses freedom, he knows that unless he is profoundly successful, he will have no approval. He also will have no safety net. This means if he tries something on his own, goes out on his own without the support of the infrastructure of society, he has a very high likelihood of really failing miserably and finding himself in serious trouble. So, most men dream of a life of freedom, but tend to live their lives as slaves. Now, I say slave, meaning a person who lives their life doing as they must do in order to receive the necessary rewards in order to stay alive and to avoid being punished. Slaves. Slaves. Now, women alternatively, right from early childhood, understand that they are someone's property. They aren't aware of this necessarily, nor is this ever explained to them. But follow me, and you'll see it's clear. Every woman grows up believing that someone else is responsible for her. When she's young, it's daddy. And she knows that she appreciates and loves daddy. Daddy is incredibly important to her, because when daddy is happy with her, the world is sunny and happy, and she gets everything she needs, and she's secure. But you see, when a girl has security, once she's got that security thing handled, she wants freedom. And freedom is right there for her, because she's got that security thing handled. Someone else is taking responsibility. Only, in order for her to have that freedom, she has to follow a tried and true, incredibly important philosophical model. One that she has learned from her mother, from her aunts, from her sisters, from every one of her friends' parents. She's learned this over and over again. What daddy doesn't know won't hurt him. This is because what daddy wants is for his little angel to be precious and perfect and make him proud, which means she mustn't misbehave. However, misbehavior is for her to do the things that make sense to her and feel right to her, and that she's going to do. She understands that she's going to do these things, and she doesn't think there's anything wrong with it as long as daddy doesn't find out. Because after all, not getting caught misbehaving is the same thing as behaving. Now, this works pretty well because daddy overwhelmingly lives in denial. If his little princess comes home in the middle of the night looking disheveled because she's just pulled a train for the local football team, or whatever, she comes in the door late at night and daddy says, "Wow, you're late. You weren't having sex, were you?" "Daddy," she says, "how could you ask such a thing? I don't even have a boyfriend." "Oh, I understand, princess. Well, have a good night." Because equivocation comes completely naturally to people who have understood that their job, what they must do in order to ensure their security, is keep their sponsor happy. And the reason this is so important, and I love the giggling from the ladies, it helps you guys understand. I'm not speaking out of my hat here, and I don't mean this as a condemnation. You will almost never find a person who's more openly accepting of women than I am. Maybe Zan. We're on the border of one another. I love women fantastically. But to understand all is to forgive all. And it's easy to understand why it is that women, chronically, when they're young, never take responsibility for their actions. They don't take responsibility for their actions because they know they don't have to. Has anyone here ever known a woman who, when caught cheating by her partner, did not immediately blame him? Anyone?
Yep.
Anybody? Okay then. I don't mean this as an attack or a disrespectful comment. It's important to recognize that women learn certain coping mechanisms in order to survive. Amongst them, women learn what I like to call total grievance recall. This means that any time a man has done anything wrong, anything that didn't match to the way he pretended he was during the courtship, she'll call him out on it, and she'll bring it up to make him feel guilty and anxious whenever he's on the verge of catching her doing something where she would be seen as misbehaving. Doesn't matter what it was she did, she'll say, "Oh yes, this from a man who did this." And he'll go, "Oh shit, yeah, I remember. I'm never going to live that one down." Whatever it was. Women are very, very good at this. And when a woman cheats on her partner, she doesn't, generally speaking, feel guilty. Because she can always logically equivocate why it is she's doing it. It's always his fault. So, as a consequence of this, while a man will feel overwhelming sense of guilt, because all his life he understood certain things, amongst them, he was responsible. He was ultimately accountable for everything, and he was supposed to be the man, damn it. He had to take care of everything. So when a man makes the ultimate sacrifice, not killing himself, marries someone in exclusive monogamous relationship. When a man commits to have no other sex with anybody else for the rest of his natural life, a few things are interesting. Amongst them, for the man, this is a huge, huge commitment, and he means it. Now this is conspicuous, because when a young woman is growing, she desperately wants to be married. Or at least she definitely desperately wants to get married. She wants a wedding, so that the transfer of responsibility goes from daddy, whom she's sick of having to hide everything from, and he's not going to buy it for much longer anyway, to her new husband, whom she's very fond of and thinks the world of, and perhaps she's completely infatuated with him, and all she wants is him. Him, him, him. She's found the man that she was told when she was a young girl she was destined to find. This is a man who is clever and thoughtful and appreciative and respectful and compliant and passionate and sexy and sexually dedicated to her alone. Who's masculine and affirmative and powerful, self-directed. Now this combination of attributes basically can't exist in one person for very long. It can while the man is in the throes of infatuation, when reason and accountability for both genders go right out the window. See, when a man meets a woman, or a woman meets a man, at the very outset of the relationship, if the two find each other hot and interesting, and the other is interested in them, the intensity is way up here on the sliding scale of intensity. Meanwhile, the intimacy is right down here, because they don't know her very well, or they don't know him very well. They sure are cool. Over the next little while, as they spend a bunch of time together, the intensity begins to drop. Meanwhile, the intimacy begins to climb. They reach a point where they no longer go any further because of infatuation. Infatuation protects people from actually seeing their partner the way they actually are. This is part of the romantic fantasy of fresh new love, in which your partner is flawless. And if they say something incredibly stupid and pointless, like, gee, this water sure is wet, you think, wow, what an interesting observation. Sam Cooke said it best: when a man loves a woman, can't keep his mind on nothing else, turn his back on his best friend if he puts her down. If she's bad, he don't see. Meanwhile, they reach a point where the infatuation is the only thing that keeps the intensity high enough that they're having lots and lots and lots and lots of sex, and the intimacy is low enough that they have not yet had to confront the fact that their partner was not the way they imagined their partner to be. Now, here's the fun bit. When the infatuation wears out, which generally takes somewhere between about 30 minutes and about 18 months, if you have unrestricted access to your other partner. With unrestricted access to your partner, infatuation pretty much never lasts as long as 18 months. When the infatuation goes, you suddenly start to notice your partner's defects. More often than not, it was the excitement of the prospect of getting out of living under daddy that was a powerful incentive for the woman to have found someone with whom to hook up. And sometimes, since she so desperately craves a wedding, she will ask for or insist upon a wedding, and she gets a wedding. Poor girl doesn't understand. She doesn't want to be married, she just wants to get married. Being married sucks. It's almost the same thing as living with daddy. Once the infatuation fades, a few things happen that are real heartbreakers for women. Women are raised from childhood. They're told that they're going to find this Mr. Perfect. He's going to be exactly what they want. They're going to only be interested in one man. They're going to live with him for the rest of their life. That's what they're told. As they age, they usually realize this just isn't so. But certainly once they're married, they walk in believing this is it. This is the marriage. This is the one that's going to last. I'm talking about intelligent, clever, educated women, doctors, lawyers, scientists, whatever, get married, even though 50% of first marriages end in divorce. And 70% of second marriages end in divorce. Anyone here know what the leading cause of divorce is in this country?
Marriage.
Absolutely. No better way to spoil a perfectly good relationship than to force each of the two partners into a situation where they have no option except to both feel and be taken for granted. In case that's not clear, let's say you and I were married. Hey, great deal. I'm going to grant myself to you on an unreserved basis, in exchange for which you're going to grant yourself to me on an unreserved basis. Now, we're like a union. And like all unions, this union exists to protect poorer performers from the hazard of competition from better ones. You see, I've promised you you'll never have any competition in exchange for the right to not have to worry about competition. After a little while, even if, metaphorically, I made the greatest steak you'd ever had, and I said, I've got great news for you, honey, you can have the best steak you've ever had every single meal, for as long as you like. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight snack, any time. As long as you never, ever, 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 ever have anything else. Well, of course, this seems okay at the time because you know how much you love steak. After a little while, certain things start to happen. Amongst them, my ability to make great steaks starts to decrease. My enthusiasm for making great steaks starts to decrease. In part because it's all I'm making. And in part because I know that you're accepting it without the joy you used to accept it. And in part because I know that it doesn't matter how much effort I put in, you're going to take it. Because it's your only option. And you start to feel taken for granted. Meanwhile, I've started to feel taken for granted, knowing that you are taking a steak no matter whether I put any effort into it or not, because it was the only thing you could have. So here we are, a relationship between two people who nominally care about each other, in which the real deal breaker of almost all relationships has made itself clear. The deal breaker for almost all relationships is being and feeling taken for granted. Anyone have a problem with that? Okay, so we have this mutually assured destruction, monogamous, committed relationship in which the two partners have hooked up, generally in a hurry. They hooked up while they were still infatuated. In other words, they married someone they don't actually know. They married someone who, because the intensity was still high, and the intimacy was still pretty low, there are all sorts of things they don't know about each other, because after all, in order for the girl to be confident the man would marry her, she went out of her way to appear the way he must want her to be. Interesting thing, anyone here ever heard that you have to work at relationships? Anyone ever heard you have to work in a marriage? Yeah. Anyone? Put up your hands if you have. Anyone here have to work at their relationship with their best friend?
Nope.
Funny, that's because that relationship works. It requires no undue effort, it requires no additional intent, because it works. Now, a marriage that requires work because you're constantly pretending you're not who you are. Each person got into the marriage. The man had no choice but to pretend he was cooler, better, smarter than he actually was, because men are all raised subject to something I call Marx's paradox, named for that brilliant American philosopher, Groucho Marx. Groucho was famous for saying, "I never belonged to any club that would have me as a member." Every man in the world grows up knowing that if a girl likes him sufficiently, based on who he actually is, without us having to blow any smoke up her ass, without us having to pretend to be cooler, smarter, more dedicated, just be himself, and the girl likes him, well, her standards are way too low. He would never belong to that club. That club would let him in. Hence, Marx's paradox. So, of course, the man has to go out of his way to demonstrate to the woman that he's cooler, smarter, better. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. And your eyes are exactly the same color as my new Porsche. So, men go out of their way to suggest that they're someone they aren't, and to hide who they really are. They pretend they're not checking out every girl that walks by, and they know they've made this commitment and that they are expected to fulfill their commitments. Honesty and integrity are things that men have pounded into them their entire young lives. Meanwhile, their partner, who's also infatuated with them, is just fine with things. Things are great, only after some time, the man's physiology screws them both over. Something referred to as the Coolidge effect happens. This is not to do with cooling down. It's named for President Calvin Coolidge, who allegedly was on a tour of American farms with his wife. They went to a chicken coop. 10,000 hens, a dozen roosters. Mrs. Coolidge, First Lady, asked the farmer, "Does that rooster mate every day?" "Oh, yes, ma'am. Many times a day." "Huh. Tell that to President Coolidge." President Coolidge, without missing a beat, apparently said, "Does that rooster mate with the same hen every time?" "Oh, no, sir. A different hen every time." "Tell that to Mrs. Coolidge." So the man and the woman have hooked up with one another. The man's pheromonal sensors that make him feel aroused and his excitement by his partner have made him overwhelmingly enthusiastic, and as soon as he could, he would climb right in there. He was good to go all the time because he was so into this girl. Only now he's got unlimited access to her, and they're sharing the same bathroom, and he's seen her in every state. And she stopped being so exciting. And then the intensity starts to crumble. And the intimacy starts to rise. They get to about here after a little while. Only now the really dreadful thing is, the girl has all her life been told how men are horn dogs, constantly sexually aroused, constantly want her. Only now, as she's been having a good deal of entertaining sex, her sex drive is skyrocketed. Because that's what happens for women. Having a lot of sex, your sex drive goes up like crazy. Having almost no sex, your sex drive tends to go very, very, very far down. Except when you're about to ovulate. But we'll get back to that. She, our young lady, in this case yourself, and I, we're married. You're stunning. Of course, I'm all over you until my body starts to go, "Wait a second, I've done this one." She's not pregnant by now. And I'm going, "But come on, what's wrong?" "It's not you. Baby, I promise it's not you. I don't know what is wrong. Don't know. I can watch porn and get it up. I just don't know what it is." Meanwhile, she's going, "What the fuck? He's supposed to be into me. I thought he loved me. What's wrong with me? Why isn't he into me?" Interesting thing about women, guys, you have to understand this. Women are raised to understand that their sexuality is their most valuable asset. Their validation comes from their sex. This is insane, but it's endemic across the line. Many women I've known, medical doctors, research scientists, whatever, consistently hear from their mothers and fathers, "When are you going to grow up and settle down and get married and have some children? When are you going to throw away all this childish stuff like leading a clinic and get down to the real business of making grandchildren for us?" And they know they get the shit kicked out of them by their friends who say, "If you don't settle down soon, you're going to be you're going to rot on the vine. You're becoming a much less attractive asset. You better move quick, or you're going to have your biological clock start making noise." So the girl's, of course, thinking, "Shit, I only have a small window of opportunity because as a woman, I'm a depreciating asset. Men age like fine wine, but women go all downhill." This is not true, by the way. It's just how people are raised. They're raised this way to make sure they get off their asses and start making babies early. Okay? Interesting fact, a lot of guys don't realize, there's only one reason that virginity is desirable. If you stop and think about it, it's not because a virgin is tight. But every boy is told, "Oh, a virgin, she's going to be tight." Well, this is because she's in pain and terrified, not knowing what's going to be happening next. She's got vaginismus, which means her vag clamped down. She's in terror. However, if you're sweet and a good lover and you put a lot of foreplay in and she's really into you, the next time you have sex, she'll open right up. So good for you. You found a virgin, you committed to her, you've now had your virgin, and now, from now on, she's just like any other girl. You got one time with extreme vaginal tightness. Hope it's worth it. Yeah. Now, of course, at the same time, men have always been raised to understand, do not accept from courier if seal is broken. After all, throughout history, only the eldest child was the heir to the family legacy. This meant only the firstborn child through the woman really needed to be the man's. So they invented something called a honeymoon. One moon, one cycle, and by the way, if you're either Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, you understand that men aren't supposed to get anywhere near you when you're having your period. They're supposed to wait 7 days. This is so they can be confident that if you get married, you are going to have a good long cycle during which you might become pregnant, because you're going to be sequestered away with your husband during your honeymoon, away from all other men, so that if you get knocked up, pretty much had to be his. This is why virginity was so prized for so long. However, it's totally obsolete between DNA testing and the fact that nobody marries a virgin these days, in the first world anyway. They might marry a girl who was a virgin when they met up with her, but they sure as hell weren't going to buy the car before they took it for a test drive. So, there is, historically, no way for a man to identify for sure when his partner is about to ovulate. Therefore, he's got no way to know whether his child is his own, except for that idea that there's going to be blood on the sheet. Deuteronomy actually covers it nicely. It says that if there's no blood on the sheet, the man can have the woman brought back to her father, where she will be stoned to death in front of his house. Because she was clearly a whore, bringing down his family name because she wasn't actually a virgin on her wedding night. We're really good to women, aren't we? We have some wonderful things about women. We have wonderful things in our society. We say about women that there are two varieties. Two varieties. There's the woman who does as she pleases. She chooses with whom and why to have sex. She'll go to bed with someone because she likes them. She's turned on by them. She's bored. For whatever reason, she'll go to bed with them because she doesn't want to live in abject, chaste celibacy until she's hooked up with someone. But maybe she's doing her thesis and she has to travel to Peru to take samples, or maybe she's a morning radio announcer who's got to be up at 4 in the morning to get on the air at 6 o'clock. Maybe she's a movie starlet. Whatever, or for no reason. She does not want to settle down and have children right now. She maybe just hasn't found the right guy. But if she's having sex, and she's not getting a commitment, she will no doubt be shouted down by other women around her. They will say, "You have no self-respect. You're giving yourself away for nothing." Now we have a terrible word used to describe a woman who is, as we say, too easy. She gives herself away for nothing and therefore has no self-respect. Anyone want to give me a call out for the word? It's a 4-letter English word. It starts with an S. Very good. Well, it's very important. A slut is different from a bitch. A slut will have sex with anybody, and a bitch will have sex with anybody but me. It's very important to recognize the word slut has no meaning. It is just meant to be painful. But it gets retasked. For a man, when a man calls a woman a slut, he's saying she's having more sex than I want her to. If a man is interested in a woman, and he knows she's having sex with one other person, she's a slut. If his best friend wants to hook up with her, but he knows he's got no chance with her, he'll say, "Oh, you don't hook up with her, she's a slut. She had sex with Gary and Peter last year. 2 different guys, same year. She's a slut. You don't want to hook up with a slut. Everyone will laugh at you. I don't want to marry her, I just want to fuck her." Meanwhile, her father says to her, "You don't want to hook up with Gary, he just wants to go to bed with you. He just wants to get into your pants. Hold up for Jamie here. He's got a good job, a career, and a nice car. He'll take good care of you and your children. Because don't forget, honey, I raised you to be a whore." Mommy says something very similar. She says, "If you give away the milk, no one will buy the cow." Which is another way of saying, don't forget, honey, we raised you to be a whore. You see, if a woman who has sex to suit herself, makes her own decisions about her life, and doesn't follow the standard procedure, is condemned because she's too easy, gives herself away for nothing, and therefore has no self-respect. There is the other kind of woman, the one who has self-respect. She would never think to give herself away for nothing. She only gives herself away for profit. And we have a nasty word for a girl like that. Recognize I'm dividing it across a simple line, and this is as simple as it gets, ladies. Our society says to you, you can either be a slut in which you're condemned, or a whore in which you're condemned. However, it's much worse to be a slut. You see, as long as you're putting out, it's okay, because you're bringing in. The economics of it make a little more sense. You see, you're told, how come you're going to bed with this guy? Well, he paid for the concert tickets, and he got us backstage passes, and he paid for the babysitter, and he paid for the parking, so of course I went to bed with him. Or he paid for the face Drano, and he paid for dinner, and he paid for the tickets to Cats, or he paid my rent, or he gave me cash, or he promised he'd love me forever. Because the promise of security, or any sort of delivery of security, exonerates the girl. It's much less shameful as long as she's getting something out of it. It's okay, although there's still some shame if what she's getting out of it is cash. Interesting thing, guys, you may not know how to determine this. How do you know the difference between a woman who's having sex with you because you buy her gifts or give her things that are worth cash versus a woman who you give cash to in order to have sex with you? It's a tricky question because there's no difference. Wonderful, huh? Meanwhile, we can tell this low status whore a hoe because it's cute. But there's another kind of woman. This is the exemption. There's another kind of woman. This is a whore who has such high status, so high profile, that she presents herself to men saying, I'm only going to make myself available to a single contracted client. I'm going to vend my sexuality to just one man in exchange for a lifetime of support for myself and my children, whom he will no doubt assume are his own. And there's a nasty four-letter word used to describe such a woman. Anyone want to guess? Wife. You got it. Somehow, wife is considered an honorable thing. That's because when mommy says to her daughter, you mustn't be a slut, nothing is worse than being a slut. It's because mommy was almost certainly a wife herself, and she knew that if daddy was sleeping with some hoe, it was cheaper to keep her. Daddy wasn't going to throw away his credibility and his social standing by being seen to leave his wife, and presumably children, for some hoe. He also knew that he was going to have to keep paying and trying to convince this girl to go to bed with him, rather than the woman he's got at home. Now, a good question comes up a lot. What's the difference, generally speaking, between a wife and a prostitute? The answer is simple. With a prostitute, you generally get the sex you're paying for. Because you see, the woman doesn't actually sell her sex when she becomes a wife. She sells her right to make her sex available publicly. This means she must do her very best to, like with daddy, transmute her husband into hubby, which is semantically equivalent. She knows she loves hubby. He makes everything possible. He's her security. He's her sponsor. So she's going to do everything she can to keep him happy. And that means, most of all, she's not going to let him catch her doing things that she wants to do that would make him unhappy. So when a woman is sleeping around on her husband, because when she made that lifelong commitment, she knew from her entire lifetime that her word wasn't supposed to mean much. She knew it her whole life. Every girl she knew would lie constantly to make other people happy. Women make time commitments and mean nothing. All the time. Guys, you get upset because you're being flaked on. Hey, they do it to themselves, they do it to each other. Girls will drop their plans in a heartbeat to do something more entertaining that's just come on. Or for no reason at all. Don't take it personally. It's generally got nothing to do with you. But interestingly, when a bunch of guys get together, they'll all say terrible things about each other. They'll make nasty cracks and jokes all the time. When a bunch of girls get together, it's different. Girls get together, they say all sorts of sweet, complimentary things to one another. Guys get together, they really give each other the gears, but it's all cool because, in fact, they don't mean it. Similarly, when girls get together and give each other a bunch of compliments, it's all cool because they don't mean it. There are different words. Languages break out interestingly. Words like interesting, very different. There's a masculine and a feminine version. Hey, what did you think of Gary's new car? It was interesting. Hey, what did you think of Linda's new purse? It was interesting. Interesting when said by a woman means vile beyond description. Interesting when said by a man means interesting. Please note the laughter coming from the unprepared ladies in the audience. This will go on all night if I get my way. There are a few other things I'd like to explain to guys that are very, very important, that guys tend not to understand. When a woman goes through her normal monthly cycle, she has two generally not well understood phenomena that take place. During her cycle, about 2 weeks and 2 days before she will begin having breakthrough bleeding, in other words, before her period will begin, if she's not on the pill, she will go into what is referred to as estrus. Estrus is the phase immediately before what's also known as the luteal surge, which is when the egg is released into the fallopian tube, where it expects to be confronted by oodles and oodles and oodles of sperm from many different vendors. They're all in there fighting it out against one another to be the one that makes it. Interestingly, different men's sperm can identify other men's sperm and try to kill them off to make it more likely that sperm from their vendor will actually get the girl pregnant. Interesting things about the penis. It's shaped like a plunger. This is so it pushes in and pulls out any of the remaining residue from the previous donor to increase the likelihood that the man is going to be the father. Interestingly, women have evolved in a very interesting way. About 2 days before, 2 weeks before their period, their brain chemistry changes unconsciously. Ladies, you may never have noticed this, because you've almost certainly never been told you should pay attention to it. You might sometimes feel the pinch when the luteal surge takes place and an egg is released. But most women aren't even attuned to that. But for a couple of days before it, you'll suddenly notice, for whatever reason, you're dressed tardier than usual. You're wearing lower cut tops and higher cut skirts and higher heels and brighter red lipstick or whichever. And you're looking around at faces for reasons you can't explain going, I could do him. I could do him. Definitely do him. I'll even do him. Those days are because your hormones have changed your interpretation of what you're seeing. Your perceptions change. 25 days a month, you crave a man who's going to make you feel confident and secure. A man who's got familiar aspects to him. Someone who makes you feel like you're with daddy, or someone like daddy who's going to take care of you and provide for you and provide you with stability and security. And those couple of days just before you ovulate, your brain says, fuck that. You don't want to hook up with someone who reminds you of your family. You don't want someone familiar. You want something strange. This way, you won't have an incestuous child. So go out and collect sperm from the place where all those men, the ones who had no choice but to leave their families, will be waiting. Amongst the bird population, this is called a lek. A lek is the place where all the male birds go to do their little dances in front of the female birds, so the female birds will all show up at the same place to go and get mated. Women more have discos. Generally speaking, a woman goes to a nightclub for one of two reasons. She goes out to a nightclub so she can have lots and lots of men validate her by making passes at her and offering her drinks and telling her how hot she is, so she can feel good about herself, particularly if during the week she works at some job she hates, where she feels underappreciated and underutilized. But she knows she can dress herself up real good because she had that modeling card made on which she's got a half a dozen preset modeling things, and this is what she's going to hand to people when she's out at the club. She dresses herself up to the nines to go out and be super hot, so every guy's going to want to get with her. And of course she'll give her number out because she's not going to answer. She gives her number out because when a guy asks, she doesn't want to upset him. So she gives her number out to get rid of it. Guys, you may not realize this, but when a woman sees a guy she finds hot at a club, she's got a problem. She wants him to know she finds him hot. So she'll turn her body like this. Or she'll brush her hair like this. The guy, being completely oblivious to all this, has no idea. Goes, what's wrong with this guy? I was being so overt. But she wasn't being overt, and she wasn't being overt on purpose, because she knew that if she let him know she wanted him and he didn't take her up on the offer, he was rejecting the most valuable thing she had. He was saying, you are worthless to me. Every woman can handle it when a guy wants to have sex with her, but she doesn't want to have sex with him. She's used to it. Basically, no girl can handle it when a guy she wants to have sex with doesn't want to have sex with her. Particularly if she's ovulating. If she's ovulating, man, it better down will come through. When she's ovulating, she'll go home with a guy that she's met who has the courage and presence of mind to look at her in the eye without flinching. She'll look away, she'll look back. He's still looking. She goes, oh, wow, this guy's got balls. Meanwhile, the guy smiles and starts striding over to her. She's going, oh shit, he's coming this way, he's coming this way. Oh my God, he's coming over, oh my God, he's coming over. By the time he gets there, she's probably lubricated. Thanks for laughing, ladies. It makes it much easier for these guys to understand what I'm talking about. The girls are in a state-dependent memory state. Their brain chemistry has altered their perceptions. They don't even remember which guy they were with. They might have been with many, because that's how they've evolved. You see, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. A girl wants to get off, but she's going to take about 20 minutes of fucking to get off. Maybe much more. The guy, on the other hand, is going to take about 3 minutes of fucking to get off under normal circumstances. I'm talking evolutionarily rather than the dating scene these days, where people have a reason to want to please their partner. Historically, the girl would walk out to the lek, where all the men were. She'd walk up to each one and manage to establish himself as his place in the dominance chain. She'd go up to the first one. He'd climb on board, do his little happy dance for 3 minutes, and then he'd do what men have done since time immemorial. He'd go to sleep. 3 minutes, she's still horny as hell. She hasn't got what she needs. She gets up to go find the next one. She might have to go through a half a dozen or more before she's had enough sex to actually bring her to the point where she gets off. Then she gets to lie down. Her uterus returns to its previous upright and locked position, and she's no longer in sperm-catching mode. Interesting, you ladies are probably familiar with this. Have you ever had a boyfriend or partner who, during your period, during foreplay, your period counts went away. But after you had an orgasm, they came back with a vengeance. Have you ever had this?
With a vengeance.
Many women have this. It's because during foreplay, your uterus moves into the same sort of position it does when you're already ovulating. And it returns to its upright and locked position when you're done. Period cramps are not cramps. They're the feeling of your uterus scraping against itself to rub off the lining. That's where the blood comes from. See, it's a fascinating thing. A woman releases her egg into her fallopian tube. Her egg needs to show up where there are an unbelievable number of sperm in order for a very significant likelihood of becoming pregnant. Interestingly enough, the guy, historically, had a foreskin. Interesting thing about the foreskin. Why did it exist? Very simple. The guy pumps in, his foreskin comes along, grabs whatever's there, pulls it out, and it holds it in a nice wet place so he can put it into the next girl in case he's already spent all that he had. In fact, DNA tests are kind of interesting. Once in a while, a girl who was at an orgy party or something, or maybe just had a bunch of guys over a couple of days, will have unwittingly hooked up with a guy who didn't have the good graces to wash himself between the last girl he had sex with and her, and will pass into her semen from a completely unrelated third party. And DNA tests will not be helpful in identifying who the father was. It doesn't happen often, but it sure happens. I expect a long time ago, before people really had any understanding of the nature of sex causes babies, it would happen all the time. I have a theory. I bet a lot of you have heard that women in close quarters, over a long enough time, synchronize their menstruation. Has anyone heard this?
Yeah.
Synchronize their period? Okay. Do you believe it?
Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
I think that's bad science. I think that's a tremendous mistake. I'm not saying that what they're observing is not happening. It's happening in the same way as if I told you guys, if you don't get on your knees and pray tonight, the sun won't come up tomorrow. If you all get on your knees and pray, in the morning the sun will come up. Hey, told ya! What's actually happening is not menstruation synchrony. There's no value to that. Evolutionarily, what would possibly be the value? All the girls would have pawns at the same time? Right? No, there's no reason. The reason that they appear to have menstrual synchrony is because menstruation takes place 2 weeks after ovulation. It was ovulation synchrony they were doing. They did this by picking up signals from other females to let them know when the most alpha female in the group is having her ovulation. They speed up their cycle. So that if there is one alpha male in a polygamous group, many females, one male, they all speed up their cycle so that they can be one of the first couple of girls to climb onto him. Because when they have that urge to get fertilized, it's overriding. They need to get done. This is a man who doesn't remind them of daddy, but is powerful and effective, a protector, provider, and a stranger. Perfect. She climbs on board. First ejaculation in about 72 hours. The man puts out about 400 million swimmers. About 100 million of them will be motile. Second ejaculation in that same period, he puts out about 80 million, about 15 million of which will be motile. After that, he's pretty much shooting blanks. So only the first one or possibly two have any real chance of becoming pregnant. Why is this important evolutionarily? Because what could possibly be worse for the family than all the women on the disabled list at once? What could be worse for the family than for all the women who become pregnant at once? All they need is to feel that they've had the opportunity to become fertilized, so they relax and stand down. Anyone here ever had a female cat that was not spayed? You know that sound cats make when they need to get let out? Because they need to get let out. And you basically have to either let them out, or they'll escape, or you can use a Q-tip. Use a Q-tip to keep this cat under the impression that she's being fertilized, and that'll shut her up. This is very well established. Look it up on the net. There's a zillion references for how to do it. Women are not cats. Cats have 8 nipples and will have 14 children at once, from 14 different fathers. Generally, women only release 1 egg. If they release 2, then it might be from one father, it might be from several fathers, a couple of fathers. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens. Sometimes a woman will give birth to 2 children, twins, one of whom is Asian, one of whom is black, and the mother is white.
Oh.
They write about this stuff in Reader's Digest. It happens. And the girl is always mortally embarrassed, but some man comes along and says, I'm going to marry you and raise those kids as my own. Good. Men should have evolved overwhelmingly not to care, since after all, we have no way to identify at birth whether a child is ours. Basically, within a race, all children pretty much look the same at birth. Either no hair or straight hair, light eyes, no direct coloration. If the mother happened to have wandered out when she was about to ovulate, behind the back of her husband, ran into some guy who liked the romantic fantasies in the Harlequin romances. Seemed so perfect, she wanted him so bad, they couldn't do it. Then she runs into him again, he says the right things, they go off into a broom closet, they do it. Shit! Now I'm in real trouble, because of course she left the house without condoms, because her husband would never have understood if she left the house with condoms. So now she calls her mom, she says, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? We're never going to speak of this again. Go home and climb onto your husband, and I'll be there in 9 months when the baby's born to tell him how much the child has his father's eyes. If there's one thing all women and men can agree upon, it's that you can't trust women. I want you to know that I feel you can trust women to be women. And I have great relationships based on trust with women. And they are completely trustworthy if I frame things in a way that help them understand that I need them to not try and please me. Just tell me the straight dope. After a while, they usually get to that point. But it's still a challenge, because the first reflex is to tell people what they want to hear. Telling someone something contentious is a challenge. Now, as a woman becomes a woman, stops being a girl, she starts to recognize responsibility. Generally speaking, she understands authority equals responsibility. If she's going to have authority over herself, she has to take responsibility for herself. But still, there are creepy old patterns that come up again and again, like, I must not be single. If I'm single, it means I can't find a man who thinks I'm worthwhile enough to put his name on. If I'm single, that would be embarrassing. Which is crazy, of course. As far as I'm concerned, women should do exactly as they choose. They should never, ever, ever worry about being a slut, because after all, A, slut doesn't really mean anything. B, a woman who has a lot of sex will always be a hell of a lot more fun in bed than a woman who has no sex, or almost no sex. And much more importantly than either of those two facts, she's a person who has the right to do as she chooses. With this in mind, men have never been able to understand this. They've always been told a girl is going to play hard to get, because women have been told men just want one thing for you. You've got to play hard to get, and men are going to play games. Remember, men will play games, so you have to play hard to get. I'm reminded of a wonderful joke. Why do women have pubic hair? To hide the hook. Especially true for fishermen, you know? Now, a woman's supposed to catch and keep a man. It's very important that you understand. Like if you told your Rottweiler, I'm going to put a bunch of raw chuck here, don't eat this steak, guard it. And you left for 10 hours. First few hours, your well-trained Rottweiler's going to sit there. 5 hours, 6 hours, starts to get hungry, smells the steak, no, not going to do anything, knows what he's supposed to do, goes to sleep, wakes up, sees the meat, eats some, goes, oh shit! I was supposed to do that. Hides. Okay? If you come home and you punish your dog, you're a consummate asshole. Because you expected your dog to behave outside its nature. Similarly, if you get into a committed long-term relationship with a woman, and you presume she's never going to have sex with anyone else, you're a consummate asshole. You're expecting her to go against her nature. She's going to go with her nature, she's just not going to tell you. That's her job. Her job is to keep her sponsor happy. The best way to keep you happy is to not let you know of the things she's done that would make you unhappy. And she won't feel any guilt or remorse, and she'll say to her friends, how the fuck can he not know I'm sleeping around? He asked me point blank the other day, are you sleeping with anyone? And I told him no, of course. And he believed me. What's wrong with him? Girl checks with a guy because she's 1,000 times more intuitive. A girl can tell immediately what a guy thinks about himself. Guy's looking anxious and uncomfortable. She confronts him. He'll fess up. He'll fess up because he's an asshole and thinks that's the thing to do. His job must be never to admit anything to his partner that will make her lose her sense of security. Because a girl can't have an orgasm with a man under two circumstances. One, she doesn't respect him. Two, she can't trust in her security. Unless her amygdala can suppress itself, and she doesn't have to think about anything, she can't have an orgasm. So guys, you owe it to your women. Either open your relationships so that the communication is pure and open, so that you're not marrying a stranger, and so that they understand that you understand. And you're not saying, I'm going to put these genital cuffs on you and never let you out of the house. I understand, you're going to do what you do. I love you, and I can deal. Try not to get pregnant by somebody else. In fact, if you become pregnant while we're together, I'm going to ask for an in utero paternity test. If it's mine, I'm responsible, no problem. It's up to you whether we have the kid. If it's not mine, it's up to you whether you have the kid. And then I have to choose whether I'm going to hang around. But you see, I have 6 sons and a daughter. None of them came through my penis. I assumed responsibility for them late in life. Some of you guys have met some of them. They're wonderful kids. I'm so proud of them. I love them to death. They're my kids because I love them as my kids. I treasure them as my kids. I raised them as my kids. And they think of me as daddy. The fact that I couldn't give them a kidney only matters if they need to get a kidney. In every other way, they're my kids. And you better believe there would be hell to pay if you told one of them they weren't. they know damn well I'm not actually their father. Human males have evolved to assume what comes through their partner is theirs. Guys, recognize if you raise it as your kid, and you love it as your kid, and it loves you as its daddy, it's your kid. Full stop. So if it's going to matter to you, get that DNA test before it's too late to decide not to have a kid. But love your women for who they are and what they are, and make sure they understand that you know who they are and what they are, and that you expect them to be as honest as they can, and recognize this is going to require a huge leap of faith. Because a woman knows the first time she tells you, yeah, I had sex with someone, you're going to flip out. Because you haven't really made your peace with it. Only after you realize she had sex with someone and she came back. She came back because she wanted to be with you. So shut the fuck up. When you start to realize that you're not really at risk, your ego shuts up. Because the first time your ego goes, holy shit, if I give my beloved the choice, she might not choose me. Oh my God! So I've got to keep her under lock and key. But that never works. It just makes for a very, very unhappy man when he realizes the truth. So guys, be enlightened. Take this as a load off of your mind. Recognize that women's chastity is just good public relations. Notice the laughter on the girls in the room. I'm not trying to be hard on them. Please believe me, I've got hard-ons for you, but there's a different thing. I love ladies. I respect and appreciate you. And I'm very mature about this sort of thing. And so as long as you're honest with me, I'll be honest with you. Couldn't be more open. I will share everything, like glasnost. Open in a relationship is not about open legs. It's about open communication. So on that note, I'm Johnny Soporno. If you look me up on the net, you'll find about 350,000 pages. Some of them have some great free lectures I'd love for you to see. So please look me up. I'm also going to be here tomorrow. And I'm very proud to be sort of a founding Amorato, despite the fact they say Amorati. And I love these guys, and I'm super happy to be involved. And if there's anything I can do for any of you, just let me know. And if there's anything I can do for any of you ladies, or more than quite to you, just let me know.